There is a deep power that lays dormant inside most that you can start to tap into that will shift everything. And I mean everything in your life. And this idea was held sacred by many masters of the past, including Jesus Christ himself, who understood the importance of this understanding and the effects it had in one's life and in their mission. When we don't understand this and apply it, we become ungrounded, always subject to influence from those who do not have our best interests at heart. Essentially, when this isn't learned and applied, you become a victim to circumstance and the agendas of others. However, when you do become aware of this idea we are going to be covering, and most importantly apply it as I show you how in this video, you become grounded and unmoving even when others try and derail you. You become stable in your own ideas and beliefs that will actually move you towards your vision for yourself without constantly becoming distracted or hooked into someone else's agenda. Essentially, it is impossible to not realize your vision when this is applied. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So before we jump into tools and techniques and deeper levels of understanding, we need to get the basics down. And this is to understand that you have what we could call an inner garden within you. And this is essentially your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is responsible essentially for 95% of your activity throughout the day. It is running in the background on autopilot, and 95% of the thoughts and the things that come up for you are coming from this subconscious. And that is why it's so crucial that we start to build the subconscious in a way that serves us versus a way that really hurts us. The problem is most people are walking around with a subconscious mind that's like an inner garden that has all this parasitic fruit trees or plants that are wreaking havoc. And I'll go over why this has happened and also how to uproot these parasitic fruit trees and replace them with fruit trees, replace them with seeds that will grow into things that allows you for that 95% of the time that you're in this automatic kind of mode to actually think positive, empowering thoughts, to actually have beliefs that allow you to take empowered action in the world, which is going to shift the things that show up in your world as well. Essentially, the things that the subconscious brings to you or brings up for you, the thoughts that come through lead to the feelings that you start feeling, lead to the actions you start taking, which of course lead to the results that you start having. And it starts at this core place of the subconscious mind, that inner garden, which is why we need to focus on it. Now, we're also going to learn how to use our conscious mind in this video to essentially be the guardian of the subconscious, not allowing foreign invaders into the subconscious, which happens for so many people, which is why their subconscious mind is chaotic, with a garden that's not serving them, with all of this parasitic plants for some reason rooted in the garden of the subconscious, because our conscious mind, most of us have not learned how to use to protect our subconscious from what we can call foreign invaders or things that do not have our best interests at heart. Now, the subconscious mind is best known for being the place where your belief systems are stored. Essentially, it's the programming that you are running off of, like the hardware on a computer program, where when, again, you go automatic, you go into autopilot, the programs are running in the background, influencing your life in many different ways. This is why, for example, if you had parents or people in your life when you were younger, when you were being programmed the most, because you were in a certain brainwave state called theta, which we're not going to get into in this video, but I've gone over before, you're basically more impressionable when you're a kid. So it's unsurprising, for example, if you had a parent or someone who you looked up to or a guardian or someone you followed that said something like, hey, money doesn't grow on trees, that you also grew up with really lack mentality or beliefs when it comes to money. And you probably played that out in your life. And we can look at this from many different aspects, whether it's health, whether on how the world works in general. Some people believe, for example, there are those who are just lucky and those who are not. There are those who are privileged and those who are not. And regardless of what argument we want to come from, it doesn't serve us to have these beliefs because our world becomes colored by our subconscious mind. So a lot of the beliefs you may currently have in your subconscious, a lot of the fruits, and I like to call them parasitic fruits that you have in your subconscious, in the garden of your subconscious, didn't even come from you. A lot of them came through childhood when you were impressionable. Now, it could have easily been that in your childhood you had guardians and parents who instilled you with positive, supportive fruits and trees in the garden of your subconscious. But if we look out at the world and we're being honest, this rarely happens because most of the common belief systems aren't ones that really serve us. They're usually focused on lack, they're focused on victim mentality and disempowerment. And so it's not your fault necessarily that these beliefs are there currently. But it is no one else's responsibility other than your own to uproot these parasitic fruit trees, to uproot these belief systems that are not serving you, and to replace them with new ones that will empower you and allow you to live the life that you want to live. So that's fantastic, but the question now is, how do we remove these parasitic fruit trees? How do we start planting what we want in there so we can start producing more of the things we want in our world, in our physical world? Whatever your conscious mind assumes and believes to be true, your subconscious mind will accept and bring to pass. Dr. Joseph Murphy. And that quote you just saw come up on screen is from one of the greatest experts on the subconscious mind. I don't believe Dr. Joseph Murphy is alive anymore. From the book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. It is so powerful when we understand this, but there's something crucial that he used there, and he mentioned how the conscious mind plays into the programming of the subconscious. You know, these are not two areas of you that are at conflict. They actually work so well together when you allow them to. And this also brings us to the observer effect. Essentially, what you observe through your conscious mind, because when you're observing, when you're in the moment, you are consciously, remember like, oh, you need to be more conscious, you are consciously bringing yourself into the moment and kind of taking stock of what's happening around you or what's going on in this moment. When you go unconscious, you allow essentially the gates to the subconscious to be open to foreign invaders. But when you're more in the moment, when you're more monitoring your thoughts, when you're more monitoring the energy you're picking up, monitoring what you're allowing to even be accepted, you are essentially putting a guard at the gate of your inner garden. And so when these foreign invaders come in, these things that want to plant these parasitic fruits, these things that want to plant the seeds of their agenda in your subconscious, you can suddenly stop them at the gate to your subconscious and turn them away. Because now you'll be aware, oh, a thought has come up. Okay, wait a second, is this a thought I want to entertain? Is this a thought I want to reinforce? Or is this a thought I just want to observe and allow to pass and not come in to the subconscious? And this is the role your conscious plays. Think of it like a guard at the gate to your subconscious. But the reason so many people have so many beliefs that they don't want to have, or even if they draw back to like the genesis of these beliefs, they're like, I didn't come up with that, that was given to me, is because their guard has been asleep at the gate or has been incredibly incompetent with the gate just wide open, with just all of these things allowed to flow through that are not serving you. And so in comes the observer effect. And this essentially is what you observe to be true will become true for you. It is not the circumstances or events that you're seeing around you. It is how you respond or react in response to that event. For example, you could have two people who go through exactly the same event who hold it and look at it completely different. For example, you could have someone where it's like maybe they lose some money and one person becomes traumatized by that and goes into fear and reinforces these subconscious beliefs in the garden of fear and everything else. Another person looks at that and is just neutral towards it and doesn't attach to it and just allows it to pass them by, never allowing whatever that is, those beliefs, to be reinforced more in their garden. And here's the thing you have to understand with beliefs, and we can look at this from a brain chemistry perspective as well, is when you hook into a belief emotionally. So when you have a thought come up and you emotionalize it, when a belief comes up again for you and you get emotionally attached, you reinforce that belief. You strengthen the neural pathway of that belief. So let's say a thought comes up and you react angrily to a certain situation. There's a belief within your subconscious. There is a tree within the inner garden of your subconscious that you are essentially have a pathway to, that this situation is now reinforcing and feeding. But if you don't react, there's no just energy that you can give that belief. So for example, maybe a certain situation always makes you angry, right? You have a belief that when this happens, you're getting screwed over and you get really pissed off. Every time you get pissed off when one of these things comes up, there is a belief system like, oh, I'm getting screwed over, whatever else it is, some victim thing, and you're essentially watering and feeding and cultivating that parasitic fruit tree, and it's becoming stronger and stronger. But if that same situation arises and you do not react, or you think something like, you know what? Something positively amazing is unfolding for me. Or you know what? This is not what it seems. Or you know what? I'm just gonna leave this be. There is no energy then going into that tree now. There is no energy reinforcing that belief. The neural pathway, there is no more energy going across it. There's no more energy reinforcing it. It is not becoming stronger. In fact, the less energy that now moves through it, the less the tree is given attention and energy and watered in the inner garden by, again, giving it that emotion, energy, and motion, the more it begins to die off. Now, you might have some trees within the inner garden, some beliefs in your subconscious that are stronger than others, that you've had since childhood, that you've reinforced for so long unconsciously without being aware, that they're going to take a while for them to wither and die. But in the same way that if a plant in physical reality is cut off from its food source, it's cut off from what allows it to be alive, it happens the same way in your subconscious. If you know the principle of correspondence and the principle of cause and effect from Hermetic wisdom, you'll understand that these things happen on all planes. Meaning in the spiritual and mental plane, it is the same thing. If you cut off the energy source, the food source for whatever it is, it dies out. And its food source is your attention. Its food source is what you focus on. What you focus on grows. Its food source is reliant on you continually emotionally reacting to things that happen in your life that reinforce that belief. Or again, we can call it the parasitic fruit tree. So a simple way, because I know that's a lot to throw at you to look at this, is anytime you respond to something from a victim mentality, make this kind of distinction, make this kind of connection that you are reinforcing a parasitic tree, a parasitic fruit tree, a parasitic belief system that does not serve you in your subconscious, in your inner garden. You are feeding it, you are giving it energy. Now, you're gonna do this sometimes when you're new to this, and don't worry about it. Just catch yourself and wake up. Wake yourself up as quickly as possible. You might find yourself, really entertaining some thoughts that are victim-like or really don't serve you. And it's not about whether you can perfectly never do that. Even masters aren't able to do this every second of the day. That's not the goal here. The goal is how quickly can you get back up on the horse, so to speak, after you've fallen off? How quickly can you wake yourself back up, enact or engage the conscious mind, which is the guard at the gate once again, and then kick out those thoughts or not let any more in so that the energy source is cut off. And having that remembering to be the observer. Again, the observer doesn't get attached. The observer is not going in there and going like, this is awful, what is happening, or whatever else. The observer is just watching, not attaching. Watching and seeing how things play out, making intentional choices, going whether, okay, I want to engage with this, or I don't want to engage with this, whatever it is. But the observer has that groundedness, that calmness to really assess what's happening and understand, okay, this is something that's going to reinforce a parasitic tree in my inner garden, a negative belief I no longer want to have in my subconscious. I'm not going to engage with it because I understand if I do, I am just reinforcing that neural pathway. I am just feeding that tree and making it stronger. Whereas if I leave it alone, I don't engage, I am cutting off its food supply, and if I keep doing that, it will start to die out. Walk amongst them, but not be influenced by them. What he's saying is to kind of be in the world, but not of the world. A lot of us pick up a lot of these subconscious beliefs because we tune into mainstream ideas, we tune into groupthink, and we default on the belief systems that others have really held up for us and said, this is the way. But when we look at how most people are living, we look at the agendas in play, if we do that, we allow ourselves to be subject to influence by people who do not have our best interests at heart and will lead us astray. And this is why it is essential to, yes, you are of the world, you are walking amongst others who maybe have belief systems that are not serving them and will not serve you. But that does not mean you should be influenced by that. to be conscious, to use your conscious mind to be the guardian at the gate, to not allow anything in that isn't going to serve you in your mission in what you are doing here. And one thing to do is to think of your subconscious like the most precious possession that you have, because ultimately it probably is. It is an amazing tool that allows you to create so much of your reality, which we'll get into how that works momentarily. But would you leave your most precious possession just out in the open, just in front of someone, or just kind of easily accessible to others to take? No, you wouldn't. But so many of us don't put consciously a guard at the gate to our subconscious, which would allow, again, these foreign invaders to come in. A lot of people think that the thoughts that enter their mind or the feelings that come up all the time are them, like it's a part of them. And this just isn't true. Your brain is one of the most powerful that we know of, at least on the planet, transmitter and receiver, meaning you are receiving impressions from other people all the time. Have you ever been around someone and you kind of picked up on an energy or even thoughts, or kind of like the kind of thought that that person was engaged in? Maybe you thought you were crazy and like, that can't be right. But the fact is, you absolutely have. Sometimes the thoughts coming towards you are things you're just picking up from those around you. And so not to think like, this is me, these are my thoughts, they are not you. It could be a program, an old program also coming through that you didn't even form, that was impressed upon you when you were a kid, or at some other time. And so these are not you. You are the I. You are the observer, the one who gets to choose. But so many of us are not used to tapping into this real part of ourselves that we don't use it. We haven't even heard of it. But the real you is the observer, is the one that's looking at all this and gets to make the conscious, intentional choice. And so when you learn to just observe and choose more often, you start to kill the weed seeds, you start to kill the parasitic fruit by cutting them off of their food source, cutting off these beliefs that don't serve you of their food source. The neural pathways are not firing and wiring anymore, so you're cutting that off. They're becoming weaker. And you then get to choose more of the beliefs you want to take on board. You get to watch stuff like this and discern whether you want to take some of the things I say on board or not, or watch similar stuff and do the same thing. But suddenly you now become the maker of your life, because you're getting to choose what you're not picking up and not reinforcing, and you get to choose what you are picking up and what you are reinforcing. Essentially, you stop getting hooked and kind of thrown about by other people's agendas, just getting hooked like left, right, and center. Like all this stuff's happening and you're just being thrown in the wind. Even when there's a storm, when you become the observer and you choose things, it's like you're calm within the storm. All this stuff's happening outside of you, trying to influence you, trying to get you, all this advertising, all this other stuff, all these agendas, all these political motives, the news, all these different things are all around you. But you decide either not to look at them, or if they somehow come into your kind of sphere, they somehow come into whatever it is you're doing, into your reality stream, you're able to remain calm and not get emotionalized, because that's what these things are trying to do, to hook you into these different ideas, to put you into kind of firing and wiring certain ideas that other people want you to believe. But when you get good at this, you allow yourself to remain calm, to observe, and then to be like, hey, that's not going to serve me. I'm going to choose not to pick that up. But this thing over here is going to serve me in what I'm trying to do. I will pick that up. Essentially, when you find your divine center within yourself, regardless of what's happening in your world, your life begins to shift. Magic starts to happen. And at the end of this video, I'll give you a little bonus that's going to show you the best way to do this. So essentially how to kind of tap into that center, how to do what we've been talking about here more powerfully. So essentially to stay calm and grounded during the storm, to walk amongst them but not be influenced by them, as Jesus said. I'm going to show you how to do that at the end of this video, so stay tuned. And it's such a useful skill. It becomes like a superpower in this day and age of distraction, where despite all of this chaos and distraction and things that are trying to hook you, you are calm, you are grounded, and you're able to consciously choose what it is you're gonna focus on. And again, focus in this day and age, probably any day and age, but especially this day and age with TikTok and Instagram and all these things, the news and all these things that are trying to hook you, and wanting to fit in and all this different stuff. Being able to be like, wait a second, I'm going to choose intentionally from my heart, from my mission, from what it is I'm looking to bring about, what I came here to do. It is a superpower. If you watched my video on the 7 Hermetic Principles, which was the one before this, the one about the ancient secrets the elites don't want you to know, you'll know about the principle of cause and effect. And cause and effect is playing out in your life all of the time, but not just on the physical plane. You know, what you're seeing physically is simply an effect of a cause that happened on the spiritual or mental planes. And this is where your subconscious and your beliefs exist. The effects in your life are coming from your subconscious. And so when you shift these, when you cut off the belief systems that don't serve you, you replace them with new belief systems, the effects in your life start to change. And what this ultimately means is your circumstances start to shift. Your reality begins to change because you're no longer tuning into things that would have certain things show up. In fact, that's leaving, which causes brand new things to start showing up. And when you're reinforcing these new positive, empowered beliefs, empowering things start to show up in your physical as an effect to that cause. So now let's go over how to really embrace the bends, the negativity, the storm, whatever is happening, how to truly use this observer effect to, again, walk amongst them but not be influenced by them, which I can understand can be quite difficult if you're not used to this, right? You know, it sounds simple, like just stand there and don't be influenced, and for the most part, and just be grounded. But I'm going to give you a way, and I'm going to give you something that's going to essentially allow you to do this much easily. We'll go in more depth, and I'll show you the best tools and techniques to do this. Now, if you're interested in reality creation and really shifting your life to one that you actually want to live, I would check out my free Facebook group, the Elite Transformation Experience, where we go over these topics at a deeper level. I share some of the ideas that come from our paid program, the Elite Mentorship Forum, that has helped thousands of people to shift their realities. This is not just lip service. We have so many testimonials of people whose lives have changed from going through this, and you're going to get some trainings and other things in my free group, some more information about the program, and so much more by joining down below. The only thing I ask is that you fill out the form when you are prompted to. When you go to join, it takes about 30 seconds, and that's just the small commitment I ask for those people who want to join. If you don't, you will not be accepted into the group, but you can join that down below, the Elite Transformation Experience on Facebook. I'll be in there. You can also talk to me and get some feedback from me with some of the things that you're going through, your situation, and so on. I love to connect with you guys and learn more about your situation to see if and how I can help. So you can access that down below. Now, I did promise you that I'm going to give you something that's going to help you when the storm is here. And it's so crucial because you can be adding things, you could be planting new seeds, but if the storm comes and then you get hooked and you're reinforcing these parasitic fruit trees, well, this all is for naught and this all starts falling apart. And so I want to have you watch this video next where I show you how to weather the storm, and not just weather it, but embrace it to the point that what comes behind it is so positive for you. And this, again, is like a superpower in this day and age. It's going to help you so much in your life. So I'd go check that out next.